Discover the sinister secrets of the haunted reservoir. 12 spine-chilling encounters exposed. Jenna Wright could feel the chill creeping down her spine as her tired eyes scanned the darkened street outside her home, a modest refuge nestled on the outskirts of a town where whispers of dread crackled through the air. Tales of a haunted reservoir loomed like a dark cloud, dark where once there was comfort. Avoid it, they said. It holds secrets. She had always taken those warnings to heart, but on this night, exhaustion mingled with an undercurrent of fear. The faint flicker of their porch light produced sinister shadows that twisted and turned ominously against the walls of her home. Tyler's laughter earlier that evening felt like a distant memory now, swallowed by shadows that seemed to stretch toward her with every gust of wind. But as night fell, the atmosphere thickened. A scratching noise echoed outside. Was it just a branch clawing at the side of the house? No, it was something more. A low growl. In the pit of her stomach, dread blossomed and simmered. She took a deep breath, attempting to shake off the feeling. She was a mother, always ready to protect her son, even when fatigue clawed at her mind after a long shift at the diner, and yet, as days passed, the ominous feeling lurked around every corner. Tyler had begun to tell her he saw glimpses of a shadowy figure in the trees every night, closer as the sun dipped below the horizon. The neighborhood had transformed before their eyes. The familiar homes and friendly faces became cloaked in the veil of anxiety. What if they weren't safe here anymore? Driven by worry and a protective instinct, Jenna began probing into the town's dark history. The stories of children who vanished near the cursed reservoir sent shivers down her spine. Their faces were plastered on faded flyers still fluttering like ghosts on telephone poles. Drowning. Silence. Fear. Each word felt as if it were chiseling away at her sanity. The town had tried to sweep its tragedies under the rug, but she couldn't ignore the warning bells ringing in her head. She was drowning too, drowning in her fear, gripping tightly to the fabric of her ordinary life while Tyler slipped deeper into something she couldn't reach. His stories grew dark. Odd behaviors from neighbors she'd once smiled at now cast suspicion on shoulders hunched near the shadows. She tried to rationalize, but doubting their honesty seeped into her thoughts like poison. What if those she trusted most held secrets that could shatter their fragile world? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The storm rolled in that night, fierce winds howling as if the night itself screamed. The power flickered and dimmed, plunging her home into a suffocating silence. Heart racing, Jenna grabbed her phone, inching toward the door. Suddenly, a soft voice, Tyler's voice, called out, tiny and lost, breaking through the cloak of darkness outside. Mom? Jenna's heart crashed in her chest. It shouldn't be out there. The chill that swept through her when she stepped onto the porch felt alive, crawling along her skin. She shuddered, the air heavy with an unsettling presence, eyes wide and breath shallow as she peered into the abyss. Instinct screamed for her to go back inside, but she needed to see. Needed to find him. Something shifted in the shadows. She felt it more than saw it, a ripple of movement that made her skin prickle. In the grip of her fears, she turned. Tyler. The name choked her throat. When she heard nothing in response but the groaning wind, dread settled deep within her bones. Where was he? And who or what was watching from the shadows? Something sinister lurked around every corner, and she realized in that moment, the legends of the reservoir might not just be tales. What if her home, her haven, was now a place of lurking danger? Jenna stood frozen on the porch, breath caught in her throat, heart pounding like a frantic drum. Tyler! She cried again, her voice cracking under the pressure of the night. The howling wind seemed to swallow her words, and the darkness refused to yield any answers. Panic gnawed at her insides, twisting and turning until she could hardly breathe. A flash of lightning lit up the sky, illuminating the trees around her. For a brief moment, shadows danced, twisting and contorting into grotesque figures. But when the light faded, silence returned, thicker than before. She felt trapped in a nightmare where every corner held a lurking terror just beyond reach.
The reservoir, was it demanding something? Or someone? Tyler.
The scream bubbled up from her depths, mingled with a fear so raw it clawed at her sanity. She took a hesitant step forward, the ground beneath her feet slick with rain, as if the earth itself was trying to draw her back.
Mom!
His voice broke through, softer this time. It came from deeper within the darkness surrounding the house. She rushed toward it, arms outstretched, hoping to sweep him up and run back to safety. Then she heard a low, guttural noise, unlike anything she had ever encountered. It crept from the trees, wrapping around her like a dark shroud. Her instincts screamed to run, to return to her home, but she pressed on, compelled by maternal instinct.
Just hold on, I'm coming.
Jenna shouted, determination flickering like the failing porch light. With each step, the growl intensified, venomous and unnerving. It reverberated in her chest, rattling her bones. The sound mirrored her deepest fears, echoing everything she had uncovered about the reservoir. Suddenly, Tyler appeared through the thickening shadows, his small form emerging like a specter.
Mom!
His eyes were wide, filled with a mixture of terror and confusion. Relief surged within her, but just as quickly, a new wave of dread washed over her. Tyler was standing too still, too quiet, as if he were merely a pawn in a larger game.
Tyler, get inside now!
Jenna commanded, urgency lacing her voice as she sprinted toward him. But when she reached for his hand, he jerked away, his gaze fixed on something behind her, something that made his pale little face twist with fear.
Don't!
He screamed, eyes darting, pupils dilating. Jenna's heart sank. He wasn't afraid of her, he was terrified of something else.
What's behind me?
She whispered, fear gripping her throat tight. She could feel it there, the presence lurking in the shadows just out of reach. The air grew cold, her breath visible as if it were a warning. A shiver raced down her spine, it was all too familiar, the warnings from the townsfolk replaying in her mind.
Mom, please. We have to go.
Tyler's voice cracked, a higher pitch slicing through the dark. Jenna's senses reeled. As she turned around slowly, a figure emerged from the clutches of the night. Its shape twisted, warped and unnatural. It was tall, impossibly thin, limbs stretching like grotesque branches reaching for her. The faces of missing children flashed in her mind, echoes of despair and lost innocence.
Run!
Tyler shouted, pulling at her arm, urgency burning in his voice. In that moment, instinct took over, propelling her forward as they sprinted for the door, the lurking figure pursuing them like a hunter closing in on its prey. They barely made it inside, slamming the door shut. Jenna's breath was ragged, pulse racing, her body trembling as she locked the door.
Tyler, what did you see?
She gasped, but he pressed against her, eyes wide, still parsing through the horror.
I don't know.
I thought it was you, but it wasn't he. As the growl returned, now louder and more insistent, Jenna realized whatever watched them wasn't he just from the dark. It was bonded deeply to the reservoir, seeping into their lives, and it wanted something.
What do you want?
She whispered into the suffocating silence, her voice desperate yet trembling with an unshakable fear. Maybe it would answer. Or maybe it would never let them go. Outside, the shadows moved closer,
as if beckoning to them with sinister intent. Something was coming, a revelation that would rip apart everything they thought they knew.
But before Jenna could grasp the weight of it, a sharp rap echoed at the window, a signal of something worse, something even darker. The storm had awoken not just the elements, but the very heart of the darkness itself. Jenna realized with a jolt, they were not alone.
What did this malevolent force want from them? And were they already too late to escape its grasp?
Jenna pressed herself against the door, breath hot and shallow, the sound of her frantic heartbeat drowning out the growls that seemed to seep through the walls.
What was that?
She whispered, barely conscious of her own words. Tyler's face was ghostly under the dim light, his eyes wide, reflecting the terror that clawed at them both.
It wanted something. I felt it. It was calling me.
His voice quivered, and Jenna's heart sank deeper.
Calling you?
She echoed, panic squeezing her throat tighter. She could sense the pulse of something sinister throbbing in the silence, waiting, judging.
Mom, it felt like it wanted me to go outside.
He flinched as another boom of thunder shook the house. The shadows outside danced wildly again, as if taunting their fear. Jenna glanced toward the window, the shadows twisted and fluid, unnatural, and she could almost hear the whispers entwined with the wind, beckoning them closer. "Stay back, Tyler," Jenna said, her voice steely. "We don't know what that is." Each word was a lifeline, but doubt gnawed at her, the urge to know battling against her instinct for survival. They backed away from the door, finding refuge at the far end of the living room, where only the light from the flickering candles illuminated their quaking forms. The house felt impossibly small, the walls closing in on them with the weight of the unknown pressed against the exterior. Then came another knock, this time louder, more insistent. It resonated through her chest like a tolling bell, echoing an ominous invitation to open the door.
"Mom," Tyler whimpered, gripping her arm like a lifeline. "What if it's someone who needs help?" "Tyler, stop. We can't just open that door."
Her heart thundered against her ribs as she clutched him protectively. Every survival instinct screamed to flee, yet here they were, paralyzed by dread. The knocking ceased suddenly, replaced by a low whisper that crawled through the cracks near the window.
"Tyler, come, Mom, it knows my name."
His voice was barely above a whisper, filled with awe and fear. Tyler looked at her, wide-eyed, entranced, as if the voice wove a spell around him.
"Don't listen to it. It's lying."
Jenna's mind raced, trying to stem the tide of terror that threatened to pull them both under, but the darkness hummed with intent. It pulsed, rhythmic and luring, every breath filled with the ache of raw emotion.
Tyler's eyes drifted toward the window, entranced by something she could not see. "No, Tyler.
Don't!" But it was too late. In an instant, he was bolting for the window, drawn as if shackled by an unseen force.
"Wait. Stop."
Jenna lunged forward, grasping his shoulder just before he reached the glass. The warmth of his body reminded her he was still there, still safe despite the horror. But the grip of whatever lurked outside pulled. It pulled at her soul, the air thickening. Tyler spun toward her, desperation flickering like candlelight in his gaze.
"I have to go out there. It's calling me. I can help."
In that moment, Jenna felt an icy dread wrap around her heart. This wasn't just fear, it was something darker.
"No!"
she screamed, but the words felt weak against the mounting pressure of the unseen threat.
With a sudden jolt, the lights flickered, plunging them into semi-darkness, thickening the shadows.
She clutched Tyler close, heart pounding, every instinct screaming to run but knowing they were cornered. Before she could adapt to the new urgency of the moment, a swift crash echoed from the back door.
Wood splintered. Something was trying to force its way in. "Mom," Tyler whispered, trembling.
"Stay close," she hissed, her heart racing, every muscle tensed for action. The reality settled like a heavy sludge in her stomach. The reservoir wasn't simply a backdrop, it was the very source of their nightmare.
And whatever was coming in wanted them.
The growl intensified, mingling with the sound of rain, an unholy chorus that sent chills streaming across her skin. Jenna's eyes darted to the door, her breath hitching. What kind of creature could break through the barriers of her fragile home? Then, with absolute certainty, she realized that whatever was out there, whatever had been watching them, it was hungry for something far more profound than fear.
"Mom, we need to go now," Tyler urged, terror sharpening his voice into a frantic plea. What dark destiny awaited them if they didn't?
As a soft voice slid across the room, whispering promises mingled with threats, one thought crushed against her mind like a tidal wave: the night was just beginning. But from where the shadows rippled, a figure began to pull itself through the breach. And with it came the revelation that would sever the fragile strings holding Jenna's world together.
What more lurked beneath the surface?
The figure clawed at the door, its long, gnarled fingers gripping the splintered wood, threatening to pull the entrance apart. Jenna's heart raced as she clutched Tyler tighter, trying to shield him from the source of their terror. The shadows twisted, forming nightmarish shapes that danced in the candlelight.
"Mom! It's coming!"
Tyler's voice cracked, hysteria drenching each word. He tugged at her, trying to break free, driven by that terrible urge to respond to the calling.
"No!"
Jenna shouted, a desperate plea mingled with fear.
"We stay here. We don't move."
The growling intensified, shifting from a low rumble to a deep, guttural snarl that reverberated through the room. It was like a monster waking from a long slumber, eager for flesh. Each thud against the door punctuated the silence of their home, resonating with truth. They were trapped. Suddenly, the door bucked under the pressure, a loud pop followed by the sound of splintering wood. Jenna's breath caught in her throat as she stumbled backward. She moved instinctively, corralling Tyler behind the couch, putting as much distance as she could between them and the door. The figure heaved against the door again, the hinges groaned in protest. Jenna's mind raced. They needed to escape, but how? Despite the pounding rain and rushing wind outside, the woods provided a cover they couldn't afford to ignore. Yet, the thought of stepping into the night with that thing lurking sent ice into her veins. Tyler peered over the couch, eyes straining against the encroaching darkness. "What if we just run?" he suggested, desperation creeping into his voice. "Are you insane?" Jenna spat, forcing her voice to stay steady. "That thing is waiting for us." Another crash echoed, the door now barely hanging on as the creature's relentless assault continued. Jenna could see shadows flickering in the gaps where the door was splintering. It was getting closer. Whatever was on the other side had an agenda, and it was inching toward them with horrifying certainty. "Listen to me, Tyler." She grasped his shoulders, forcing him to meet her intense gaze. "Whatever it is, it wants you. We can't let it have you." He trembled, the wonder in his eyes replaced by raw fear. "But I feel like I should help it, like it's no." She cut him off, the urgency rising in her throat. "Whatever it is, it's a trick. It's a lie. Do you understand?" The door bucked one final time and flew wide open, crashing against the wall. The shadows converged, forming a hulking shape just beyond the threshold. It was as if the night itself had come alive, coiling and twisting into a monstrous visage. Jenna's breath hitched, a primal fear locking her lungs. "Mom!" Tyler whimpered, his eyes locked on the gaping figure. The creature emerged slowly, revealing itself in full. It was a mass of darkness, scarcely human, with glowing eyes that burned like embers in the night. A horrific grin spread across its face, revealing razor-sharp teeth jagged like shards of broken glass. In that moment of dread, Jenna felt the room shrink away, her world boiling down to that singular experience of terror as she realized the truth. This was no ordinary monster, it was a manifestation of everything they feared, linked to the secrets buried deep in the reservoir, and more dangerously, tied to Tyler himself. "Run!" Jenna screamed, clutching Tyler's hand, but before they could, the creature's voice slithered through the air like smoke, dark and inviting. "Tyler, come to me." Tyler's eyes glazed over, pulled by the voice's silky insistence. Desperation coursed through Jenna as she sensed him slipping away. "No, Tyler. Fight it." Then, as the creature's menacing form lunged forward, the lights flickered one last time before plunging into darkness, the howling wind drowning out her scream. In the silence that followed, Jenna's heart raced against a backdrop of uncertainty. The night felt alive, and every tick of the clock echoed a cruel countdown. What would happen next? What were the real secrets of the reservoir that clawed at the edges of their reality? They were no longer safe. And as Jenna stood at the precipice of despair, she realized that whatever waited in that darkness was not finished with them yet. The night was just beginning, and the truth was far more terrifying than they could imagine. What horrors awaited her if they dared to confront it? The darkness enveloped them like a suffocating blanket. Jenna's instincts screamed for action. Her heart pounded in her chest, each beat a reminder of the danger looming before them. The creature's breath was a foul wind, brushing against her skin, sending tingles of dread down her spine. "Tyler!" she shouted, her voice a shrieking gasp against the silence. She shook him hard, trying to pull him from the grip of that horrible invitation. "Tyler, please." He blinked, the glaze fading momentarily from his eyes. I don't want to," he stammered, confusion mingling with fear. But the pull was strong, and he looked torn, caught between his mother and the shadow that beckoned him with unnatural allure. Without thinking, Jenna grabbed the candlestick from the floor, its flickering flame a poor defense against the encroaching void. She positioned herself between her son and that wretched figure. "Stay behind me," Jenna commanded, her voice infused with a fierce determination that belied the terror clawing at her gut. The creature paused, dark eyes narrowing as it assessed the flimsy barrier Jenna presented. "You cannot hold him forever, mother," it hissed, voice like rusted metal scraping against stone.
"He longs for the truth. Let him go." The truth. The word resonated in Jenna's mind with an unsettling echo. What truth?
Chills shot through her as memories of whispered stories about the reservoir flashed unwelcome in her mind, the legends of lost children, the spirits of the drowned.
Had Tyler been drawn here by something deeper, something more than mere chance? No.
Jenna shouted again, tightening her grip on Tyler.
"You won't take him. I will fight you."
The creature let out a low, mocking laugh that pierced through the heavy silence.
"Fight? What can you possibly do? You are too late." It lunged, dark limbs stretching impossibly far, reaching for Tyler. Jenna swung the candlestick, adrenaline propelling her with a burst of energy.
The flame flickered, briefly illuminating the creature's wretched face. The light revealed cracks of decay, a visage more horror than human, and she swung again, connecting with a hard thud against its shoulder. It howled, a sound that reverberated through her bones, a banshee-esque wail filled with anguish. But it didn't retreat, instead, it twisted and roared in fury, sending a shockwave of cold throughout the room. Jenna felt herself stagger back, stumbling, the weight of the creature's presence crashing down on her like undertow.
"Tyler!" she cried, but the shadows were closing in. She couldn't lose him, not like this.
Focusing everything she had, she drew from an instinct deeper than fear, pure, unyielding love for her son.
"Listen to me. You're stronger than this,"
she shouted, turning her gaze back to Tyler.
"Fight it. We're together. Don't let it take you."
He hesitated, eyes flickering as the creature shuddered, momentarily halting its advance.
Jenna seized the moment, stepping forward. Each step felt like a battle against an unseen force trying to wrest her back. "Tyler, remember the stories. The darkness lies at once your fear. You hold the light."
With each word, the connection deepened between them. Suddenly, she saw a spark ignite in Tyler's eyes, a glimmer of recognition breaking through the haze.
It was fleeting, but it was enough.
Then, like a sudden storm, the figure lunged again. Jenna had no time to think. She swung wildly, the candlestick colliding with the side of the beast's head this time.
A crack like lightning echoed through the air.
It howled, retreating just a step, clutching at its injury, darkness spilling like ink from its form, but the threat was far from over. The ground trembled beneath them, the walls pulsating with the creature's rage. Jenna locked eyes with Tyler, and in that instant, she felt a shift.
Could he break free? Could he see what lay beyond the deception?
Before she could ponder more, the lights flickered again, threatening to extinguish. Shadows in the corners of the room swelled as they moved with menace, the very air thickening with the stench of dread.
"What is the truth?" Jenna shouted into the encroaching gloom.
But as she asked, she felt the ground beneath begin to tremble, and the shadows morphed, scrambling for Tyler once more. As the darkness coiled around them, a sudden thought struck Jenna, chilling her to the core.
What if the truth was something none of them could bear? Because whatever secret bound Tyler to this malevolence might very well destroy them both. "Mom! Help!"
Tyler cried, the fear in his voice a lifeline in the tempest. In that horrific second, Jenna realized the battle was not just for survival, it was for the very essence of their souls. What truth lay in the reservoir? And how deep did the horrors run? The night roared with hidden terrors. The fight had only begun, and a deeper darkness loomed. What truth would they uncover, and would it be enough to save them from the shadows that hungered for their very existence? Jenna's grip on the candlestick trembled. The creature's fury surged, encompassing them like a storm. The shadows thickened, slithering along the ground, eager to ensnare. She glanced at Tyler, his face pale, eyes wide with confusion and fear. He was losing himself to the overwhelming darkness.
"Tyler,"
she called, desperation lacing her voice.
"You have to fight it. Remember us. Remember love."
He blinked, a flicker of recognition sparking in those deep blue eyes. But it was fleeting, and the shadows twisted around him, coaxing him with whispers that gnawed at the edges of her sanity. Jenna felt her heart pound harder, each beat echoing the urgency of their peril.
"Leave him alone!"
she shouted at the creature, brandishing the candlestick like a sword.
"You'll never take him."
The creature paused, tilting its grotesque head, eyes narrowing into slits filled with nothing but malice. "Such love so naive," it snarled, its voice punctuated by a raspy slither.
"Do you not see he is destined for the depths?
The truth of this place will claim him."
Jenna's mind raced. The depths? What depths?
Memories surged through her, stories of the reservoir that had been shared around campfires. Tales of children lured by lost souls, those who drowned seeking companionship in eternal darkness.
No. He is more than that. I want to let you feed on him.
But the thing lunged, darkness spilling from its maw, a wave of chill that enveloped Jenna, suffocating and heavy. She felt an icy hand claw at her chest, trying to snatch away her resolve.
"Mom!" Tyler cried out again, a plea that cut through the dread. "Hold on."
Jenna pushed back against the darkness, raising the candlestick high, defiance coursing through her veins. The flame flickered uncertainly, and she willed it to glow brighter. The creature hissed at the light, retreating slightly, but it was still closing in. Suddenly, a flicker of the light cast strange shadows across the room. A multitude of forms danced within the edges of her vision. Faces emerged, tortured and pained, eyes wide with terror. Ghosts of the past, victims of the creature's trap.
Jenna's breath caught realization dawning on her.
That truth, it was never mere words.
It was a history soaked in sorrow. "Tyler, listen,"
she urged, her heart racing.
"Look. They know.
They're trapped just like us. We need to fight together." No, Tyler gasped, the whisper of the shadows surfacing in his mind.
"What if they never left? What if I know? You are not one of them."
She stepped closer, emboldened by a rising tide of fury.
"You have a choice. We fight together."
With a moment's clarity, he met her gaze, defying the whispers that tugged at him. Slowly, the spark flickered brighter in his eyes. Jenna felt a rush of hope surge through her, pushing back against the darkness that threatened to swallow them whole. But the primordial creature wasn't finished. It lunged once more, fury igniting its form as it roared a sound that would rattle the bravest of hearts. Jenna swung the candlestick with all her might, crashing it against the creature's shoulder. It shrieked, but its body twisted like a vengeful serpent. More shadows poured forth, not just to mindlessly grasp, but to choke off any light that dared remain.
"Tyler!"
she screamed, digging her heels into the ground, holding her stance firm. There was power in this moment, a fierce longing to protect what was rightfully hers, and then, it happened. The very air changed. A soft, gleaming light enveloped Tyler, pushing back the darkness wrapping around him. The shadows recoiled, curling away as if burned.
"That's it!"
Jenna shouted, feeling courage swelling inside her.
"You're the light. Use it."
Together, they forged an unbreakable bond, drawing the flickers of hope and love that already thrummed within. The light grew brighter, pushing back against the encroaching darkness, revealing lost souls clawing at the air with desperate hands, begging for release. As the creature writhed in agony, Jenna felt a strange call pull at her own thoughts, a haunting whisper that mimicked the sorrowful tales she'd heard.
"Release them!" It
crooned, embraced the true silence. She shook her head violently, refusing it, and turning her focus back to Tyler, who was gathering strength, the glow expanding around him. But the shadows were not defeated yet.
More surged forth, eager to drown out their light with overwhelming ferocity. Jenna felt the darkness vibrating with a sinister glee as it descended again, a monstrous tide seeking to claim them. "Get ready!"
Jenna screamed over the savage clamor, bracing herself against the tidal wave of despair.
What choice would they make now? Could they truly break free from its grasp, or would the truth ensnare them all? The moment hung heavy in the charged air, filled with the promise of either salvation or doom, and Jenna realized the past had a price. The question echoed ominously. Would they pay it? The fear pressed tightly around them, a palpable weight, suffocating and relentless.
Jenna's heart raced as the shadows surged, pulsing like an ominous heartbeat, vibrating with a fervor that made the hairs on her arms stand on end.
She clutched the candlestick, its flickering flame trembling in response to the pitch-black void threatening to consume them. Together, Tyler! She shouted, forcing courage into her voice, desperate for him to hold on to the last threads of light. We won, let it win. He nodded, though his expression was a battlefield of doubt and fear. The whispers of the souls long lost howled around them, their cries tugging at the corners of his mind like a chilling breeze. Jenna felt its icy grip tighten around her chest. This was no longer just a fight for their lives, it was a battle for their very souls. Suddenly, the shadows lunged, manifesting into tendrils that reached for Tyler. Jenna surged forward, placing herself between him and the tempest of darkness. The candlestick swung wildly, but it felt like swatting at smoke. No matter how hard she tried, she couldn't push them back. Tyler, listen. You have to focus on the light. Don't let them in. She cried, her voice raw. She was losing him. His gaze flitted to the ghostly faces peering through the shifting dark, eyes wide and mouths opened as if frozen in eternal screams. They were tormentors, reminders of the fate that awaited if he submitted. Mom, he whimpered. The pull of despair drew tighter, twisting within him, and Jenna's heart dropped. The creature would win unless she could make him remember. She reached out, fingertips brushing his cheek. You're not alone. Remember our hikes? The sunsets? The promises we made? The flicker in his eyes dimmed, overwhelmed by the cacophony of voices rising, screeching their warnings and enticing him into the depths. What if I don't exist anymore? Tyler's voice trembled, unsure. No. You're here. You're with me. She insisted, her voice breaking. You're more than these shadows. Fight, Tyler. The shadows howled in outrage, swelling in numbers, circling like vultures searching for the weak. Jenna raised the candlestick high, the flame igniting with primal intensity, illuminating the room in sharp, flickering bursts. The light pushed back against the darkness, carving a temporary haven around them. As they locked eyes again, Tyler winced against the tide of anguish. I feel them, Mom. I can't. You must. She screamed, desperation clawing at her throat. You are the light. They're screaming for help. Don't let them pull you down to join them. Fight back. With me. In that moment, he flinched, hesitant but stirred. With a deep breath, Tyler drew upon the memories they had shared, pulling strength from the joy buried beneath the weight of despair. The light around him intensified, radiating a warmth that blistered through the icy haze as Tyler stepped forward. Jenna felt her pulse quicken, hope igniting a flicker deep within her as the shadows recoiled from the illumination. It was a moment of clarity amidst chaos, but it wouldn't last. The shadows writhed, pulsating with a terrifying rage, unfurling in desperate attempts to reclaim Tyler. The creature the vile truth cloaked in darkness screamed, a sound that echoed like thunder, making the very ground shake beneath them. Tyler, now! Jenna yelled, thrusting the candlestick towards the monster, the flame roaring like a tempest. In that instant, Tyler clasped her hand, intertwining their fingers. Together, they summoned their courage, forcing the light upward as it clawed through the dark like a sun-breaking dawn. The shadow sizzled on contact, revealing faces of terror once again, begging and pleading. But with that rise came another darkness, deeper and more consuming. It pulled at Jenna's heart and mind, an alluring promise of release. She gasped, clutching Tyler's hand tighter as whispers of forgotten names and lost paths swept over her like a chilling mist. Fight it! Tyler shouted, though his voice faltered under the weight of impending doom. With every ounce of her being, she steeled herself, pushing against the invasive memories that threatened to fracture her resolve. The madness ebbed and waned, the creature shrinking back, but what could be awakened from the depths would soon arise. Jenna's mind raced, piecing together the fragments of truth. What if their fight was only beginning? What if the past could emerge, carrying its own horrors? The air crackled with tension. Shadows flickered once more, their voices creeping closer, wrapping around her thoughts, teasing out fear. She felt the darkness reaching for something buried beneath layers of despair. We may not be done yet, Jenna whispered to Tyler, dread settling like a stone in her gut. What awaited them on this stormy path? Would they withstand the onslaught of angered souls, or would they unravel?
As the shadows surged and the creature roared, pushing against the light, Jenna realized they were at a crossroads. The shadows beckoned, hungry for a choice not yet made.
The shadows twirled and danced like restless spirits, swirling in waves of darkness that threatened to engulf everything in their path.
Tyler felt the grip of terror tighten around him, his breaths coming in short, sharp gasps. The weight of fear shifted, pressing down as if to crush their resolve.
"Stay close,"
Jenna barked, pulling Tyler back against her. The flickering light from the candlestick was their sole comfort, but it felt eerily fragile, a mere flicker against the encroaching abyss. The walls seemed to pulse, alive with twisted whispers. They want you, the voices were a symphony of despair, each tone weaving a tale of sorrow that sank into Tyler's bones. The very air was laced with the scent of decay, a tang that reminded him of forgotten things buried deep in the earth.
"Mom, what do we do?"
His voice trembled, a thin thread against the rising tide of hopelessness. He felt small, adrift in an ocean of shadows. Jenna's heart raced as she fought the despair wrapping around Tyler like a noose.
"Remember the light, Tyler,"
she shouted, summoning every ounce of strength. "Our memories, our love, it's stronger than this." As if stung by her words, the shadows recoiled, swirling away from the warmth of the flame. Jenna watched in startled awe as Tyler breathed deeply, his chest rising as he grasped for the memories she had invoked. Fragments of laughter, the joy of fishing by the lake, the sun dipping below the horizon, it all returned, a bright beacon cutting through the smothering darkness, but a fresh wave of shadows converged, roaring with fury, the grotesque faces emerging once more, their mouths stretching wide in a silent scream.
Join us, they cried, fingers outstretched, yearning to pull him in.
Jenna's stomach turned, the specter of despair clawing at her sanity.
"No! You don't belong with them!"
she screamed, her voice raw, desperate to sever the bond between her son and the tormented souls.
Tyler wavered, caught between the shimmering memories and the suffocating darkness threatening to drag him into its depths.
But what if they're right?
What if I don't belong here anymore?
The doubt twisted in his eyes, wrestling against the comforting glow of hope.
"Fight it, Tyler."
She grasped his shoulders, her grip firm but trembling.
"You are stronger."
Before she could finish, the shadows surged anew, a monstrous wave crashing against the barrier of light they had formed. The candlestick flickered, threatening to extinguish under the insatiable pressure. Jenna's body tensed, and she could feel the chill racing up her spine. Suddenly, a piercing cry shattered the air.
"You can't keep him. He is ours."
It was a voice rich with malice, echoing from everywhere and nowhere, reverberating inside her skull. The shadows coiled tighter, closing in around them, and Jenna felt the light beginning to dim, flickering as fear seized her.
"Think of the good. Think of the light," Tyler shouted, his resolve beginning to crack. For a brief moment, he seemed to glow brighter, illuminated by the memories she had awakened within him.
He took a step forward, but the darkness rushed back, gripping his ankles like sentient chains. Help us, the voices chimed in a sickening harmony. It was a tormenting melody of despair that coiled around their throats, making it hard to breathe. Jenna's heart hammered as she realized the truth: the shadows were not just monsters. They wore the faces of people lost to the void. Their cries were real, a haunting echo of humanity begging for release.
Why can't we help them?"
Tyler's voice cracked, torn between the allure of freedom and the responsibility of staying true to himself.
"Because they will drown you. They will take everything you have."
Her desperation colored her words, edged with terror as she imagined losing him to the darkness.
"Mom!"
Tyler cried, as the shadows clawed at him, each anguished face stretching wider, their desperation leaking into his mind like poison.
The walls pulsed again, closing in as the shadows descended.
Jenna felt a dread creeping into her veins, a
dark seduction whispering promises of peace. "Give in." "No!"
Jenna screamed, shaking her head violently. She couldn't lose him.
Not now. Not ever.
But the voices rose louder, drowning out her thoughts, drowning out everything until she couldn't tell where she ended and the darkness began.
"Tyler, hold on!"
she shouted against the swell, a last beacon of defiance amidst the chaos. But what if they were right?
What if fighting meant suffering? Would they ever escape the darkness? The grip of despair tightened again, and the shadows lunged forward, ravenous for their souls. Time seemed to stretch, the air electric with dread, as Jenna's heart thudded in horrifying rhythm with the impending doom. Just as the darkness threatened to engulf them whole, something within her snapped. "Tyler!" Jenna shouted, an urgency boiling in her blood. "We have to face it together or we'll be lost forever." But did she truly believe that could save them? What if facing their fears led to an even darker truth waiting to rise? The shadows were closing in, a suffocating tide that threatened to swallow them whole. Jenna felt the heat of Tyler's skin slip further away, as if the darkness were literally siphoning him from her grasp. Panic surged within her. Was this it? Would they lose everything to this malevolent void? "Together, we can do this!" she shouted, the firmness of her voice a fragile coat over her fear. "Think of our home. Think of the things we love." Tyler's eyes flickered with uncertainty. The voices around them twisted, gaining weight, and Jenna felt her resolve teetering on the edge. "Do you really think they'll let you go back? They're lying. They just want you to break." A grotesque face emerged from the shadows, its lips curling in a sinister grin. "He can be one of us forever." Its eyes dazzled with false promises. Jenna's stomach turned at the sight. The whispers intensified, growing louder, shaking the very walls around them. "No!" Tyler screamed, recoiling as if physically struck. "Stop! You're not real!" But the shadows thrived on his fear, curling tighter around him, their insatiable hunger unfurling with alarming speed. Jenna took a step forward, heart racing, channeling all the love she had for her son into a tangible force. She planted her feet firmly. "You're stronger than this. Remember your friends, school, all the dreams we made for the future. Hold on to that." As her words filled the air, she saw a brief flicker of light in Tyler's eyes. The darkness hesitated for a heartbeat, almost recoiling from the strength of their bond. Just then, a furious roar erupted, and the shadows lunged at her with a vengeance, their howls chilling her to the bone. "Mom! Help me!" Tyler shouted, his voice rising above the torment. In that instant, Jenna felt something deep within her, the very essence of her being ignite with determination. She wouldn't let them take him. Raising the candlestick high, the light seemed to swell, battling against the inevitable. "No!" Came the chorus of anguished cries from the shadows, recoiling as Jenna charged forward, cradling Tyler's face in her hands. "Remember!" she cried, her heart pounding. "Remember who you are." Images flooded back into Tyler's mind: cool summer nights, barbecues, swimming in the neighbor's pool, the smell of freshly cut grass. Each thought was a lifeline, yanking him back from the brink. He began to shake, and Jenna could see the shadows waver, their claws starting to retract. "Stay with me." Her desperation fused with a fierce light. But as they fought back, a heavy silence blanketed the air. The whispers faded, leaving behind an agonizing stillness. "What happens now?" Tyler's voice wavered, fragile and hollow. Before Jenna could answer, the ground beneath them trembled. The walls began to crack, spider-webbing with glowing fissures. A searing light erupted from within the cracks, blinding them both. Jenna instinctively shielded Tyler with her body as the shadows shrieked, the cacophony reaching a fever pitch before erupting into chaos. Then, as quickly as it began, the noise fell silent. The shadows burst apart like shards of glass, leaving nothing but a pulsating darkness that swallowed the remnants of the room. When Tyler opened his eyes, they were no longer in the same place. They stood before a vast and empty reservoir, its water dark and reflecting nothing but the pale moonlight. An oppressive stillness hung heavy in the air. "Where are we?" Tyler gasped, his heart racing. I don't know," Jenna stammered, confusion swirling within her. The reservoir was eerily quiet, untouched by the chaos they just experienced. But something shifted in the water, rippling outward as if something beneath knew they were there. "Mom, what if they follow us?" Tyler whispered, the shadows of doubt creeping back into his heart. Jenna swallowed hard, her breath hitching in her throat. A concrete reality settled in.
it wasn't just the shadows they had to fear anymore.
This place felt deeper, darker, and far more dangerous. What if our battle isn't over?
As tension crackled in the air, a shadow flickered just below the surface of the water, and an unearthly voice, cold and commanding, echoed up from the depths.
You should have joined us now, you won't escape ever.
The darkness of the reservoir throbbed with ominous promise. Jenna and Tyler edged back, understanding they were caught in something even deeper, with no clear way out. What waited for them in the depths?
And would they be strong enough when the shadows returned?
Jenna stood frozen, the weight of the haunting voice resonating deep within her bones.
It was as if the reservoir itself was alive, hungry, and aware.
She pulled Tyler close, heart pounding like a war drum, and urgency flooding through her veins.
Are you ready?
She whispered, trying to mask the tremor in her voice. But deep down, she felt the truth. Fear clawed at her insides like a panther pacing in the dark. This wasn't just about them anymore. They had stirred a greater darkness that demanded their attention. With a firm grip, Tyler nodded.
We fight. Reinforced by their shared resolve, they stepped toward the water's edge.
The surface rippled like a black mirror reflecting fragmented fears, swirling images of children lost to the depths. Stories of forgotten souls echoed through the night air, a chorus of sorrow that begged for understanding and resolution. Jenna felt a familiar tug at her heart, a pull towards the memories, the faces, the lost dreams.
Mom, look!
Tyler pointed, and she followed his gaze. From the abyss, shadowed forms began to rise, each one twisting into the shape of a child, eyes wide with despair. Help me, a voice whimpered, echoing from one of the apparitions. Others joined in, each plea like a dagger to Jenna's heart.
Please. No!
She shouted, drawing strength from the love she held for her son.
We can't give in.
Suddenly, a thrill of energy coursed through her, an understanding igniting her spirit.
They don't want to see you struggle, Tyler, they want your light. If you leave yourself open to the past's sorrows, they'll take you. Tyler's eyes widened, filled with both fear and determination. But Mom, they're stuck. Can't we help them?
Jenna felt herself sway under the weight of his words but held her ground.
We can't save them if we can't save ourselves. They need to find their own light. Just like you.
The shadowed figures in the water drew closer, their faces twisting, mouths opening in silent screams. The sound of their sorrows swelled, a rising tide of anguish that surged towards them, threatening to pull them into the void. Jenna glanced at the reservoir, the surface dark and inviting a deceptive lull that masked the horrors beneath.
Hold on to each other.
Jenna yelled, and as their hands clasped tightly, they both felt the warmth of love wrap around them, powerful and unwavering. The shadows hissed, recoiling from the resilience they had forged.
Feel the light within.
The faces of lost children faltered for a moment, hesitant against the vibrant energy emanating from Jenna and Tyler.
No! You won't take him. Jenna shouted, eyes flaring bright with determination.
As if answering her call, a brilliant light erupted from where their hands were joined, casting out the shadows as if sunlight breaking through the clouds.
We're not afraid of you.
Tyler yelled, strength spilling into each word.
Together!
Jenna echoed, and the light surged, forming a protective barrier against the approaching darkness. The phantoms howled in outrage, their forms twisting and writhing like tortured souls lost in a storm. One by one, their anguished faces transformed, revealing the truth underneath a distortion of fear, pain, and longing that they too had been subjected to. They wanted freedom, escape from the dark they were tethered to. With newfound resolve, Jenna dug deeper, unleashing memories of joy and warmth back at them.
Remember what it's like to be loved. Remember the laughter. With each invocation, the lost souls wavered, flickering as the light engulfed them. Tyler felt empowered, memories of days spent hunting for hidden treasures in the grass, and barbecues with neighbors lifting his spirit.
You have to find your own way, he urged, tears of determination spilling down his face.
One of the figures hesitated, its face softening, and Jenna seized the moment. You can break free. Remember who you are.
Miraculously, a ripple of light spread through the water, illuminating the dark currents as the figures began to shimmer. The whispers of anguish started to vanish, replaced by gentle laughter.
The pull of the darkness faltered, it could no longer betray them. The reservoir's depth began to shift and boil, boiling away the secrets that had plagued them for generations. "Mom! It's working!" Tyler exclaimed, his voice filled with awe as the faces coalesced into a swirling mass of brighter, hopeful energy, finally coming to terms with their fate. Suddenly, the unearthly voice roared louder than before, shaking the ground beneath them. "You think you can take them from me? You will pay the price." The dark whirlpool roared, threatening to consume everything. Tyler squeezed his mother's hand tighter, fear lancing through him. "Mom, we have to fight back." Jenna felt a surge of love, a fierce, primordial force that coursed through her veins. "No! We will not be afraid. We will not be broken." With renewed vigor, they focused on their light, weaving it back into the reservoir. They poured all their memories into the depths, joy, laughter, warmth, everything that felt like home. Then, raising their clasped hands, they used the love they cherished for each other as a weapon. "You have no power here," Jenna declared as the light exploded from them, rushing towards the shadows. An anguished shriek erupted from the reservoir, reverberating through the night. The darkness twisted, receding against the advancing light, until finally, the water surged around them, consuming the shadows in a powerful wave of brilliance. The tortured whispers rose high, filling the air with a final cry before everything was silenced by the abrupt collapse of the dark energy that had once trapped them. In the aftermath, the calm surface of the reservoir reflected their charged energy, and Jenna breathed in deeply, tears sliding down her cheeks. "Tyler, we did it." They stood hand in hand, watching how the remaining shadows danced along the water's edge, scattered remnants now interconnected with beams of pure light. "Together," Tyler echoed, his voice steadying. Across the surface, lost souls began to emerge, no longer burdened by chains of despair. They glimmered in the reflective light, smiling faces now free. "Thank you," the whisper floated up, a soft caress against the air. Nothing more was needed, and for the first time, the reservoir felt like a sanctuary instead of a prison. As they turned back, enveloped in the warmth of each other, they knew their fight was not just for survival. It had been for something far greater: the preservation of love, the endurance of hope, and the unbreakable bond of family. "Let us go home," Jenna said softly, knowing their journey had changed them forever, yet their hearts remained whole as the walls of the past crumbled behind them. The water sparkled beneath the moonlight, cradling the whispers of freedom, now intertwined with their own story. Finally, the burden was lifted, leaving nothing but echoes of laughter in its place. You need to subscribe now for the next thrilling stories that unravel mysteries just like this one. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm, and let this journey continue. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. Your voices matter. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support.